Tshegofatso Magolego is an investigative journalist and now author of a new children's book titled SIPHO'S Pink Dress. This thought-provoking kids read follows Sipho, a gender non-conforming child, on their first day at school in Soweto and how they navigate diversity and the importance of inclusion in public spaces. Tshegofatso is in the studio with us this morning to help us unpack this offering that's illustrated by Kamohelo Molefe. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Auslebo. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so good to have you. I mean, I'm excited. For one, when you say Sipho as a guy, we grew up Sipho as men, and the moment you say pink dress, talk to us about the inspiration behind this book.
Oh my goodness, I do not even know where to start. But SIPHO'S Pink Dress is a protest. It is a celebration of gender non-conforming individuals. It is a celebration of the queer nation to say that we see you and we want you to be represented in African literature. It is a story about resilience, right? And it follows the protagonist Sipho to their first day at school in Soweto. And it's written in an African context, post-apartheid era, and which is something that we don't see often. So it is a story also where we see Sipho going to their school and trying to navigate a public space such as a school environment, where when they get to school, they are now challenged and faced with people who do not understand what it means to be gender non-conforming, or what is it to be different. And then Sipho sort of goes on a journey to try and understand what is it and why is it that people call them different. And that's when the mother, Mashi Nokeshi, steps in to sort of like use words of affirmation to try and define what the word different is.
And I want to speak about Mashi Nokeshi's role, because she plays a major role in fact, agreeing and allowing Sipho to be himself, because first of all, a boy in a pink dress and going to school. Yeah.
Mashi Nokeshi, I mean, she was inspired by my mother. Growing up, my mother has always been a supportive structure to me, and she's always been the person that I can go to whenever I needed advice, or whether I was bullied or whether I was verbally assaulted at school. I was always able to go to her and explain my situation. So she is basically playing a role that is very supportive, and this is a narrative that I'm trying to change, to say that we have to celebrate parents who are there for their gender non-conforming children and gender diverse children. And that's where Mashi Nokeshi, I mean, if you were to look the word different in the dictionary, you'll find that it says that to be different is to be unusual, or to be something that's unheard of. But Mashi Nokeshi goes on to say that it's okay to be different, and to be different is to be you. And you need to take pride in being unique.
I want to speak about Sipho's pronouns and how they identify as they and them, and how that changes who they are and how they identify going forward.
I mean, our languaging in South Africa and in the whole world, it's sort of like limited. The pronouns that we have, it's only him and her, excuse me. And that is because people and those in authority see the world in polarity. They understand the world to be something that's either good or bad. They only see it as a duality thing, which is untrue. And that's where they pronouns comes in. And I was very intentional in making sure that Sipho doesn't adhere to the binary. I wanted to make sure that they are comfortable in being non-binary. And for me, that was also a sort of like a tool, an educational tool, to say that it is okay to be whomever that you are, and you should be allowed to be you.
I want to talk about, why it's important to highlight gender diversity, particularly for children.
I mean, oh my goodness, growing up, I was bullied from primary school up until high school. And this was because, number one, we didn't have the information. I myself, as a gay man, I also didn't understand what these feelings were that I was feeling. I didn't have the languaging. I couldn't even put meaning to what I was feeling or who I was as a person. And it goes for the other children who were bullying me, who were the perpetrators of my verbal assault and physical assault. It was because they lacked information. So with this book, what we're trying to do is that we're trying to use it as a weapon to try and curb bullying in schools, And I mean, in Zulu, there's a Zulu saying that says "Ligotshole semanzi," which simply means that, you know, it's easier to sort of like educate and equip children at an early age so that they understand what is it we're speaking of when we speak of gender diversity and gender, people who are gender non-conforming.
Speak to us about the research that went into this book. What did that entail?
I've worked as a journalist for the past 5 years, and in my work I've done stories about hate crime, I've done stories about transgender medical rights in South Africa, and this story in particular, for me, it was really bizarre because we were told by the Department of Health that there were about 4 public hospitals in South Africa which offered gender-affirming surgeries and gender-affirming services. But when we went to the ground, we found that the medical practitioners at these specific hospitals did not even understand what being transgender meant.
Yeah.
And all of this was captured on hidden footage, and I was just shocked.
Blown away, yeah.
I was blown away to say that how is it that we have medical practitioners in the 21st century who do not understand what it means to be transgender. And when I did the hate crime story, I mean, I think it was last year around June, and at the time I think there were about 47 reports of gay people and lesbian people who had been brutally murdered for just being themselves, which I believe cannot happen today, and it has to stop. And this is the reason why I wrote the book.
What are you hoping children will learn, or even adults understand through this book?
So I want this book to be used as a weapon, right, to change the narrative, but to also assist families who do not understand their children.
Yeah.
To say that it is okay to have a gender non-conforming child, and it is okay to have a child who's gay or lesbian. They don't have to confide to the binary. It doesn't matter what your neighbors are saying. It doesn't matter what your religion or your tradition, all these systems which were built to exclude people who are gender non-conforming and who are queer, they do not matter. At the end of the day, that's your child, and you need to be there for them. You need to support them. You need to see them and make sure that you hear them.
All right. Tshegofatso, thank you so much for talking to us. This book is amazing. Thank you so much for writing this book. Tshegofatso Magolego speaking to us about his book. We've been unpacking his children's book titled SIPHO'S Pink Dress.